Hey class, it's Nick. I got the last part of the tutorial for sections and elevations. We already did an elevation, and the principles are pretty much the same for this section. So I'm going to kind of blow through this pretty quickly, and I'm also going to try to show you some techniques that can help that can help reduce the amount of time you spend. The first thing I want to do though is my layers are in terrible shape, so I'm working on sections. I want to try to tidy up my elevation, so I'm going to go ahead and make a folder, or I guess in this case a group, and I'm going to call this elevation. And I'm going to go ahead and just shift click all of these objects that I created and go ahead and stuff them in the elevation folder, and then I can safely turn those off and on. Now I can just work on the section layer, and the first thing I'm going to do is work on the poche. And I've gone ahead and gone online, and I've got this really nice kind of texture that's really gritty. I wanted something that's going to look really heavy because I'm cutting into the concrete. So I'm going to go ahead and load that into Photoshop here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use that. So I'll first thing I want to do though is I want to make a selection that I'm going to use to show the poche. Okay, so with the lines layer selected, I'm going to go ahead and use the magic wand again, and I can go ahead and shift click to grab all this poche, which are the dark lines, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here to grab the mullions carefully. Oops, you can always undo that. If that's too high, you can increase. If that picks up too much, I can increase the tolerance, or let me see if that works. Increase the tolerance. There we go. And those are really tiny, but I kind of want things to work that way. I can go into poche, and then I can actually say fill, and that should actually fill. Oh, interesting. I was thinking that should fill a piece with color, but I'm not. Let's go ahead and fill this with foreground color. There we go. Okay, that's what we want to do. And that fills it in with this black color because that's my foreground color. And that way you don't have to actually click the bucket everywhere, and which we actually can't do because we don't want to add any color to the lines layer. We want to have this be on the poche layer. And what that gives us though is it gives us the ability to quickly make a selection. So if I do a command click on that, it'll automatically bring up that poche, and that's handy for adding in more texture. So I'm going to go ahead to this texture. I do to select everything, I do Command A, and then I do Command C for copy. I'm going to paste this into my drawing here. And I kind of actually like this area because it's a lot denser. So I'm going to go ahead and actually remove the other pieces of that. And I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of copies of it just by alt-clicking. Okay, and then I've got these ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here. And this is the concrete, so I'm actually cutting up the concrete. Every time I make a shift copy, I make a new layer. So I can right click it to move it around. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. And then go ahead and use that that poche selection with an inverse to go ahead and trim that. So I've got that piece of, and then the other piece I'm going to take. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy because I feel like I'm going to run out. Okay, go ahead and do this here. Same deal. Command click on poche, invert, and then go ahead and erase everything. And then that's going to give me that piece. And I've actually made it such that this is running into the roof And I'm not sure I like that in the drawing because I think that roof should be metal, not concrete. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make an edit here. I'll fix that later. So same thing, crochet, invert, delete. And actually I grabbed this, I don't really, that wants to be partitioned, so I'm going to erase that. And the reason why I'm doing it this way instead of like the way I did with the clouds is because I want this to be really tight, kind of concrete texture. I want to show the density of the concrete as I cut it, and so I can't use those kind of tricks. Alright, so we got some pretty good looking concrete there. Let's go ahead though and let's merge these layers. So I know that this one, we'll call this extra concrete, and then the rest of these four, I'm just going to say merge. What that does is that just puts them on one layer, and then what I can do with that is I can do some things like I can adjust the saturation, so I can want to desaturate it. I can darken it so it's more like crochet. Kind of depends on what you want, but that's going to make it appear nice and heavy for me. And then I can go ahead since it's concrete anyway, I'll make this texture the backdrop for these, and I'm going to go ahead and hide this. So we'll call this concrete background. And just for the sake of variety, I'm going to go ahead and flip this around. You don't want to keep using the same textures everywhere. You really do want to try for a little bit of variety. So I do some tricks like flipping it, and that just keeps it a little bit more visually interesting. So you don't want people to know that you're using the same texture everywhere. Okay, so I'll call this poche concrete. And then we'll go ahead to the lines layer again. I'm going to go ahead and lock our poche layer. Using the magic wand, go ahead and grab this. And then if I turn back on my concrete, I could probably just cut that out. So invert, concrete. Okay, and this one I'm going to fade way back. So I'm going to go multiply, and it's going to be pretty far back. So maybe 25%, just enough to have texture, but not enough to talk about what's kind of going on. And in fact, yeah, I kind of don't mind that so much. Okay, so I'm going to leave that. Partition's going to be just cut. It's not going to be in material. Where we cut through this part of the wall, I'm not actually going to show it as another material, just because I want that to read clearly. Let's go ahead and finish this one off. Let's go back to lines. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the concrete. Invert. Same settings as the other wall, so multiply 25%. Okay, and then I could do some texture for the metal, but I could also just do something really simple. And granted, this is going to be behind the other texture, so just call this roof poche. And I could just simply grab something like a dark gray or like a gunmetal, a little bit of blue in it. I'm not quite sure what this is. I think it's aluminum or steel. Big difference. Okay, so I filled it, and I can go ahead and fade that if I like, so that the idea is it's just not concrete in this case. Let's go ahead and zoom in and look at our work. Now I kind of don't like that. So if I go to my concrete layer, I can kind of stretch this a little bit. Okay, so we would leave this open and white because it's actually an opening. It's actually a window kind of thing, this weird kind of kidney shaped thing. We don't want to confuse it with the back of the wall. But in this case though, because we have this this kind of mullion, and the fact that like we want to kind of read the difference between this wall and the fact that there's a gap in it, I might actually go ahead and apply some kind of material to it. So I'm going to kind of go ahead and go to this concrete background layer and just make a copy of part of it. And then I'm going to use the lines layer with the selection tool. And actually, I needed to do this a little bit better here. Okay. I'll do that. I'm going to use the lines layer with the selection tool to grab that. And we'll see how it looks. And if it doesn't look good, then we won't use it. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad, because you're gonna read the space through this. Another thing that might not have shown up is that the fact that there's a window here, that there's a glass line, and you can add lines in Photoshop. It's just not the best tool for the job. So I'm gonna choose the pen tool. I'm gonna change the foreground to black. I'm gonna go ahead and add a window glass layer, and I can go ahead and just click and then shift click again, and that'll actually create a point, and then I can go through and I can say stroke. Actually, sorry, I'm going to go to paths here, and then I can say stroke path, and I just want use a pencil tool. I'm thinking that this is probably, let's see what my pencil tool is set to. Yeah, let's make that a little bit thicker. That's probably why it's just too small. Let's call it 5 pixels. And give this one more shot. There we go. Okay, I just had to have that set up right. Okay, and then once I've got that work path used, I can just delete it. So I've already made that stroke on the window glass layer, and then I can go ahead and just do another shift copy and stretch it. You never need to redraw stuff if you can just copy it. Let's go ahead and kind of bump that a little bit. Copy and stretch it. And I think I said this before in some videos, but there are multiple ways to do the same thing. You just have to think about what's right for that situation, and just try to work as efficiently and effectively as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and group these together, actually merge them. So that's window glass. So I got my concrete 1, concrete 2. Go ahead and merge those together there. Concrete background 2. Oops. Just kind of consolidate these. And then I'm going to go ahead and make another folder for a section. Or sections with 1S. There we go. Go ahead and fold these into my sections. There's no exact way to do this, or there's no reason why you have to do it exactly this way. The whole goal of this is to try to get the drawing to read, or to say what you want to say. So you can follow this tutorial step by step, but it may not apply to your design. You think about the material you're trying to use, you think about the drawing, you think about what you're trying to show in that drawing. Remember, the drawings are always about space. They're always trying to be spatial. So think about that with your drawing. Try to talk to your peers, talk to your TA, ask me if you need help, but really try to make that read as best as possible. And plus some of the things you can do, like I've shown in the other examples with entourage and with textures, to try to talk about a mood. And you think about what kind of mood you want your pavilion to show, or what kind of mood you want in your drawing, and let your use of materials, or use of color, use of entourage, kind of help you with that. And just notice here too that these are not really greatly pochade, so I'm going to kind of darken them a bit. And you can always adjust this stuff. It's a nice thing about having these things on layers, is that making changes is pretty painless. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and have another look at this, and I think it reads better. Yeah, I wanted that to read more as a space. In fact, I just realized there's probably a window over there too. So I'm going to go ahead to the window glass layer and do another alt copy to there and nudge it. It's not the tool for the job, but it'll do. It makes it look good enough. You can definitely read that as glass better from a distance. And in fact, I mean, if I really am going to go and be consistent, I might as well take this piece as well and copy it over here. And I might as well, because this is actually glazed, go ahead and make this work as well. Oops. It's important to hold. Oops. It's important to hold shift while you're doing this, so you don't accidentally change the width. And I can always trim it later if it's not actually, yeah, right. Okay. Which is what I'm going to do. Again, nudging here with the arrow keys. Shoot, still kind of not looking right. Yeah, oh shoot. Okay. Close enough. Okay, I could have probably drawn that in the time it took me to make that. That's better. Okay. So, kind of a hybrid set of sections and elevations. You could do this to a plan, but you don't typically do it. You really probably just want the regular poche in the plan to read. You know, if you feel like it, you might actually want to darken up the concrete some more, just so that it reads more like poche. So it just has texture, but it's really poche. This isn't like a birthday cake or something you're cutting into. Like, it's really supposed to be dark and massive, and what you're adding is just actually texture. I think that reads a lot better. Now, why would I do the partition this way? I really don't want to be kind of fussy with. I want the mass to read, and this partition is just a white wall in the space. That's also why I didn't really like poche it. It's just a choice that I made just to make it kind of stand out spatially. I just think it helps it it to read better. You might actually put some poche into your walls. You might even choose to add some color to them, but again, it's kind of your choice. So anyway, that's kind of an easy, kind of quick tutorial with that. I'll go ahead and post this online for you guys. And if you have any questions, as always, ask me or ask one of your TAs. Thanks.